Now, onto the final point here, command and control. And I talked about this in the previous video a bit. Um, there's not really much that I can say except that uh, people are going to have to step up just a little bit. All right. People are going to have to lead. And it's not a very simple or easy thing to do. I know. I've tried. I've done this in many other games. I think the most stressful is in Hell Let Loose, trying to command a public game. Oh my. That's I don't recommend anybody doing that, but if anybody here is watching and they want to figure out how to command their how to lead in a video game, try doing that at Hell Let Loose. I have warned you; it is very stressful, but it's a very good learning kind of experience, trial by fire kind of style. But without effective command and control, we lack effective units. And I've said before, without having sort of organized units, we're not going to be able to progress in terms of developing the game, in terms of the strategic and the tactical sense as players. That is, all right, because none of this is integrated game mechanics or game design. This is just all player run, which is a big part of Foxhole because it's an MMO, persistent warfare, open world kind of war game, right? We've already covered this, but until people start really looking deep into it, into having effective leadership and taking up on the role and responsibilities, we're not going to be able to have effective units. We're not going to be able to properly coordinate. It's there are examples on both servers right now, on Able and Charlie, where there are communities basically where regiment commanders get together and they try basically to affect this what I'm talking about here on the strategic scale, but it's not working out the way that everyone else is hoping it to work out as. And you can sort of see this because even at the tactical level, everyone sort of has already read and written the rule book on tactics and how it needs to be done, and everybody is very much aware. Well, I'm talking about the veterans here. Most of the veterans, they know how the weapon system works, and they know once they get into a tactical situation what needs to be done and how we can do it. The problem is that we've yet to get to the point where there's enough people that are closely linked together that are willing to go that extra step, to take the time and effort to plan, prepare, and then execute such tactics. And until that is a common occurrence in the game, we're not going to be able to have the strategic level of command and control in Foxhole. So that's something that should be focused and worked on really. So I've labeled this slide the solutions. It shouldn't really be the solutions because if you look at what I've written here, these are just basic things that people can have probably already identified. I should have labeled this recap, I suppose. But yeah, uh, on Reddit and most of the public Discord servers of Foxhole, there's always a lot of complaining. And I'm sorry to say, folks, but you've already given the developers your money, right? You bought the game. They are not going to change the game because of what you say on Reddit or Foxhole, or even if you quit the game. Now, I'm sorry to say, but that's not going to change the situation. Um, that's just the reality of it. What I've been trying to get at here is that there is enough of a good system in Foxhole as it is currently. I know it's not perfect, and in some cases, there's a lot of things that could be fixed very easily that could make it even better. But I'm here to just accept the game as it is. This is the game, these are the mechanics. And I'm fairly confident that there is a better way to go about doing things that will make the game overall more fun. And it's got nothing to do with changing the game mechanically. It's just the way that we approach the game, basically. We just take a step back, change our mindsets, try new things. We can definitely start getting progress and making it a much better, more fun game for ourselves in general. Um, the better leadership and better strategy part here mainly looks into as I've said before, command and control morale. On the strategic scale here, one thing I forgot to mention when talking about the facilities is that the logisticians in this game actually play a very large role. This is now everyone agrees with that the war effort doesn't go anywhere unless we have good logistics. But one thing that I've identified, and I don't know anybody who shares this view, like all the rest of the views that I've put out in the last two videos, is that out of all the people that actually do play the game, the people that are set up for the strategic and the command roles of regiments are not the frontline fellas. It's the logisticians. Because these guys, they know what it takes to run the war machine. They know what it takes to run it on whichever faction side that you're playing on. But in turn, that means they also know how the enemy's running, because there's only so many options that each side has in terms of the materials that you can manufacture and make, right? And it's the logisticians that do put in most of the work behind the lines to make sure that the front lines do get moving. In which case, then, they ought to have a say in what goes on. In most of the cases that I've seen in a lot of regiments, the logisticians, they just act as slaves, which never made much sense to me. Because these are the guys that actually maneuver all the pieces on the board. They ought to have the biggest say. And I think the first time that when this popped into my head was in one of my very first wars that I played in. I was basically a dedicated logic player, and we had an oil facility, and we were actually producing battle tanks. Actually, I think we only got to the point where we could produce one battle tank, maybe two. And what I did then was basically just help the logistics officer manage and build the tank. But we didn't use the tank because at the time I wasn't interested in tanking. But I took a look at what happened, and basically three fellas which I never really met. They were part of the regiment, but never talked to, never played with. They just showed up one night, said, we want a battle tank, we want to take it out and take it to the front line. So we set it up for them. They filled it up. They armed it, took it off, came back 15 minutes later with a pile of scrap, basically, because they didn't really know what they were doing. They went out solo, with no support, no recon, no infantry support, none whatsoever, and got taken out by a handful of Warden infantry. And mind you, this wasn't a organized regiment that they went up against. It was just on the front line, random Warden infantry managed to degrade the armor and knock out the battle tank. So and from there, like the point of the story I'm trying to get at is the logistician put on all the work here. He ought to have a say who gets the tank and where it gets put. So yeah, the last point here, to communicate effectively, the point here I'm trying to illustrate is that we have to just be honest with each other about what it is we're trying to get out of this game. If you've come across my videos as a more casual player, and you probably have disagreed with most of what I've been talking about, and that's all right, because we're coming from two very different perspectives on how we play games, basically. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with the casual point of view, where you just want to buy a game as it is, like a traditional game, play it, have fun, and then move on. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just that for me personally, I really like this game, and I think it is probably the greatest war game that has been made so far, because of the the nature of the game, really, the mechanics and how it is. It's an MMO persistent war game, uh, with the depths of logistics and manufacturing, all that kind of stuff. War economy, basically. That's all player driven. There isn't quite a game like Foxhole like this. So yeah, if anybody, if I wasn't clear on some points, or if I rushed through some things, sorry, but you could just put in the comments or message me on Discord, and I don't mind getting into further discussion on the topics that I've raised here. But yeah, so thanks for watching.